Well,
We're
you said
not
hold
talking about
on. You said
fiber.
hold on a second, Sean. So
Oh, see, this is worst production ever. Last time our
it went
voices were
great.
off,
It was Sean's
and
fault,
now
though.
this. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bearded Kevin podcast. Second episode. Welcome all again. I'd like to thank you all for coming down. I also like to thank everyone who was present the last time and
Coming down
donated.
from where?
Always helpful to donate. Remember that we're working for Seattle Children's Hospital for Extra Life, and we're always free to donate anytime, anywhere. So again, hello. Kev, you want to say anything before we fully get into this?
I'm dropping stuff everywhere. Hello, I'm Kev, and our gracious introduction presenter is Cypher, and welcome to episode 2. I don't have much to add right now, but
All right.
get
Well,
on with
today's
it. Yeah.
episode, we're going to be focusing and we're going to be talking to a dino expert and a great friend of ours who is also part of the Sharkims Friends team, Mr. Zekor, or as we call him, Bobby. And Bobby, if you want to introduce yourself, come on up and say hello to everyone in chat.
Hello, world. I think most of you know me at this point, but I'm Bobby, or Zekor, or Roquez, or Dino Nerd, whatever. And I am a dinosaur paleontologist and currently librarian living in North Dakota.
And again, I want to remind everyone in chat, if anyone has a question, go ahead and throw it up in chat. Also, remember that we are giving away some Steam keys. We're going to be giving away Valheim today. So stay tuned and wait for that raffle to happen. As soon as that raffle happens, we'll get your information and we will try to get Valheim to you officially today. All right. With further ado, let's start the episode and the questions. So before we start, Bobby, let's just first get an introduction of who you are. So, of course, you've been around. I mean, since I've been with Sharkims about 5 years ago, you've always been around. You were there when we first started Players Unknown's Battleground and everything. But how did you get into the whole entire Sean Dowd or Sharkims world?
Well, I've been friends with Sean longer than his wife has at this point. Way back in the 2005 of vanilla World of Warcraft, I was searching around on Ner'zhul, just playing, leveling my mage, and I was looking for a guild, and my little brother basically dragged me into his guild, which was the Pirate Kings, and he left soon after, just to do his own stuff. But I stayed, and Shark was already there, and I think he was already an officer at that point, just really early on. And we've basically been playing games together ever since. And so when he started doing streaming, I jump in and out depending on my work or raid or dig schedule. But yeah, it's been 16 years or something of hanging out and playing games.
And for those who are listening, Bobby has been a great friend of ours, so we sort of know his schedule and everything, but we're kind of gonna go into it. So of course we know like you do those big summer digs. Like it's always like we know summer, Bobby's gonna do his trip around America to do his dinosaur digs and stuff, and so we'll get into that. But one of the big things is you've always been our dino expert. When we played Ark, I think during the 24-hour stream, we kept being like, man, why did we never play Ark? And you kept mentioning like I kept trying to get you guys to play Ark. You've always been our dino expert. Talking about dinosaurs and all that has always been fun. But what got you into like dinosaurs, paleontology, all that? What got you into that field? Like what inspired you? Was it at a young age, or did you find it later on when you were in college, or did someone else, take you under his wings and inspired you to get into that field?
So this happened. This particular story happened when I was looking for colleges in 2003, and I had a interview with the head of the geology department at Montana State Bozeman, who was Dr. Jim Schmidt, a great great guy, great sedimentologist, and yeah, just really great guy. And I was sitting there in the interview, and mom was there, being unobtrusive because this was like, this is Bobby's time to talk with potential advisor and whatever. And we were talking about dinosaurs and geology and whatnot, and Jim shoots me a question. It's like basically the same question you just asked, is, so what got you into dinosaurs and paleontology? And I blanked because I don't know. At which point my mom started cracking up and said he doesn't remember a time that he wasn't into dinosaurs. So it has basically been a lifelong thing, fostered and encouraged by parents who are really big into making sure that the kid is educated and pursues what they like, and just has as much information on what they like as they can get.
So dinosaur just has always been there in your life. It wasn't like a flicker. Like I know, like usually with me, even seeing now my sister with her kids growing up, like some of them became like dinosaur fans, and the others like is off in cars and stuff. But I know for me, I mean, dinosaurs that hit me was Jurassic Park. I saw Jurassic Park when I was like young, yeah, like kindergarten, and I just like fell in love with it and everything. Did you ever go through a dinosaur phase, Kev, as a young age?
Yes, I was obsessed with T-Rex. I enjoyed Jurassic Park 3. That was like my favorite one, but that's the first one I was exposed to because
That's the
a
worst
bit
one.
younger. Either way, it doesn't matter. Dinosaurs, right? Bobby would agree. I think. I don't know. Either way, I wanted to be a
Sure, we'll agree. Why not?
Yeah, I wanted to be a paleontologist for a while. Then I wanted to be an astronaut. Then I kind of ignored all that, and here I am now. But yeah,
Yeah, it's everybody wants to be a paleontologist, and then some of us just don't grow out of it.
Well, it's like I told you, I wanted to be a paleontologist, and then the show Friends, watching Ross, who was one, I was just like,
we don't talk about Ross. We don't talk about
I don't want to be that person. I do not want to grow up to be that person. Is that what I'm going to be? And so, like, I decided to just step away from even like any thought about studying dinosaurs. But we've had this discussion before. Well, let's keep it going and moving. So the big summer trips, and I think that's always one of the most exciting because whenever you go on your summer trips, you'll be hopping on sporadically, and we'll just be chatting because you didn't have your gaming PC till now. I mean, your gaming laptop till now. So you would always hop in sporadically, and then we just be chatting and stuff.
Oh no!
And hearing about the digs, and I've always like enjoyed those. What has been your sort of favorite area digging in the United States? Like, what are you always excited about when you're doing your little American World Tour of digging?
Well, I mean, really, my favorite, is just digging and getting out into badlands, and being able to dig. I guess my favorite place so far has probably been northern Montana. But that might just be because I've worked there for like 8 years at this point of the 14, 15 something field seasons that I've done. And it's up there in the Judith River Formation, which is about 76 to 80 million years old. Lots of mudstone, lots of coal, and it's not the end of the dinosaurs, but it's kind of beginning to get there. But diversity is still high. You've got duckbills and ankylosaurs and some ceratopsians and tyrannosaurs, and it's just all kinds of fun stuff to dig up. And so I guess getting out to the sites and seeing what we're going to dig up that year is the great part.
So in those, you said 15 years that you've been doing this, 15 trips. How many times have you actually gone on and done like the summer digs?
Oh man, he's calculating in his head.
13.
13. So
13.
in all 13 of those years, what is the the favorite thing that you found?
I would say that it's quite probably the favorite thing that I found has been this past summer. We were in, where were we? Eastern Montana, digging again in the Judith River Formation, and we found a Tyrannosaur. Jack Wilson, one of my friends, was out prospecting, and he found sticking out of the hill. He found part of the premaxilla, which is like the very front part of the jaw, and he poked around on it for a little while, and was like, "Oh, this is cool. It's still pretty complete." Poked around a little more and found the other premax, because bones come in pairs, or most bones come in pairs. You've got the left side and the right side. So he found both premaxilla, and he just kept finding scraps and stuff. And finally, we decided it's like, hey, we need to get over here and take this hill down. So we took the hill down. Mostly me. I will boast about that. On Sasha, which is what we nicknamed, what I nicknamed the jackhammer. So I was up there with the jackhammer, and 4 or 5 other people were shoveling everything away. And we worked on this site for like a month and a half, and we have most of the skull. And one of the best things that we have is we have the upper jaw and the lower jaw of this Tyrannosaur. And they are some of the most beautiful bones I have ever had the pleasure of seeing. And there's, Tyrannosaurs aren't my favorite dinosaur. That honor goes to the ankylosaurs. But there is something about seeing, those huge teeth in the jaw, just lying there, perfect, everything in place. That I think that probably, I'm not sure I'm going to top that.
So if time was unlimited, would you and your whole group of people that do it every year be able to pull that, eventually find the entire T-Rex skeleton there?
If it is there, we will find it, because that is on the agenda for this coming summer. We are going to go back, take away the remainder. You can see in the back here, this is the Tyrannosaur Quarry. I don't know if that's the right, yeah.
Okay.
So where is it? Like right about here, I think, was the maxilla, and I can't really tell which way my finger's going, but all the rest of that hill is going away, or as much as we have time for. And if there's anything left, we will find it. We have most of the front. Like I said, we have most of the skull. And at this point, anything else is gravy. But if we can find the rest of the postcrania, the legs and hips and tail and arms, please let us find some arms. Tyrannosaurs have, at least from this area, we don't know as much about their arms as we might want.
So is the area where you guys assume the rest of the skeleton is not sure, relax. Is that area cordoned off now? Or are people able to get to it and mess with the area at all? Do you know?
Well, and this is why we don't tell people where we're digging.
Correct. Makes sense.
It's like we can give a vague idea of we're in eastern Montana, or we're in this formation. But Montana is the fourth largest state in the United States, and I believe it is bigger than Germany.
Wait, really? The fourth?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
See,
there is
what you're saying. I don't know anything about geography.
Yeah. There is a lot of room, out there. But yeah, I mean, we don't really tell people because we can't cordon it off. It's on public land, which is part of why we dig out there. We try and dig on public land as much as possible, because then we just need a permit from the appropriate land agency, the Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, Forest Service, what have you. And but that also means that because it's public land, people can just come on. Now, obviously, legally, they are not allowed to take anything. The Paleontological Resource Protection Act makes collection of vertebrate fossils on public land a federal crime without a permit, but that doesn't necessarily stop people.
So I actually, here's one thing I kind of talking on this topic that I always wondered, like, do you need sort of a license or like even a permit to go digging or even interact with these bones? And like, what's the process to actually do that? Like, do you need to get a specific degree? Is there sort of like you have to go to the to get certified by them, or do you need someone to vouch for you?
Permitting is a process that I do not have a whole lot of experience with, but in order to work on federal land, keep in mind this is federal land. Like I said, Bureau of Land Management, National Park, Forest Service, that kind of thing. You do need to simplify it way the heck down. You need a PhD, and you need to be able to show that anything you find is going to be taken care of at a proper repository. So someplace like Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana, or the Dickinson Museum Center here in Dickinson, North Dakota, or the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, or the Smithsonian, or anything like that.
So you need like a credible foundation behind you, in a way.
It certainly helps, or you need to be able to show that you are a researcher, that you've been trained, to take care of these things properly, find them properly, dig them up properly. Because a lot of people, one of the things that takes the first week or so of a new field season is training the new people to not just take their hammer and bash away at whatever you have. You gotta take it slow and careful and treat the bones nice. They've been in the ground for 66 plus million years. They get a little fragile.
So, like you said, you use like the jackhammer and stuff to get the majority of the dirt out. How do you like not accidentally hit anything? How do you know?
Well, so we know what level the bone came out of, and we know that barring faulting, folding, various geologic disturbances, the layers are going to be horizontal. It's one of the founding principles of geology is the principle of original horizontality, which is basically all sedimentary layers are laid down, flat, horizontal. So there shouldn't be any bone, or at least not of the skeleton that we're working on, in the layers above it. So we'll take the jackhammer, and if say there's 40 feet of cliff, we'll jackhammer down 35 feet, and then go through the last 5 feet with picks, shovels, hammers, and smaller hand tools. Now, it does occasionally happen that on the way down to the skeleton that we want to be working on, we find another one, and that just gets messy because you gotta shift and stop and clear out the new one, which could send more material down onto what you wanted, which then has to be cleaned up. So it can get kind of complicated when there's a lot of rock on top, but it's still, you're still getting more specimens, so it's good.
There's just a cascading effect of finding more and more, ancient fossils.
Yep.
So, going into now talking about the field of paleontology and everything, how do you feel about how sort of Hollywood or even the entertainment industry kind of shows the way your field is going? Like Jurassic Park is pretty much one of the biggest things whenever we think of paleontologists, dinosaurs, and then we talked about Ross and Friends. How do you feel they do, and what do you feel like they do well and they do terribly at?
So Jurassic Park at the time basically pulled the best knowledge that we had of dinosaurs at the time and put it on the big screen. More or less. There was some discussion even at that point that maybe dinosaurs had feathers, but it was still relatively controversial, and so they just kind of ran with big scaly lizards. And you know what? That's fine. That's what the general consensus was at the time, and it worked. Some of the decisions since then, while they make sense from a artistic and theatrical standpoint and continuity of design and everything, it rankles a little, which it's an entire thing, and really a lot of us are just tired of it and just kind of shrug it off at this point. But this is kind of true for a lot of popular movies and TV shows as a whole. The view of the public tends to coalesce around what is shown on the TV and on the movie screen. And so, if people go to, the new Jurassic Park and they see, oh, raptors are all these, scaly things, then they're going to think, oh, well, raptors are scaly. When we know, 100%, we know that, these things would have had feathers. We even, well, I'll save that for a different question. But we know they
Even
had
like
feathers.
their size are dramatized in the movies. I know that much.
Yeah, and now the size is a little the size you can deal with because Velociraptor is small. It's turkey size. Utahraptor, on the other hand, which was discovered about the time that Jurassic Park was coming out. I think it was Jim Kirkland down in Utah. It's a big raptor. it's pretty fair size and comes certainly comes closer to the size of the raptors in Jurassic Park. For other media, a lot of the documentaries try, and they try really hard. Some of the problem is that sometimes science just moves too fast. There are dinosaur papers coming out every day. My inbox gets like a minimum of 6 pings with new papers. It's kind of hard to keep up with them all. And so something that may be correct, when the documentary is being made, then it comes out, and a day later, somebody publishes a new paper being like, surprise, look at this awesome specimen that we had that shows that everything that you just did was wrong. I actually remember a Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting 10 years ago now, something like that, where one of the speakers, gave his presentation, and the next speaker got up and said, well, he just completely invalidated my talk, but I'm going to give it anyway because this is what I had prepared, and it's another way of looking at it, and maybe it's still right, but dang, that guy was. I think he's right.
Are there ever points like someone within the field who has like a big name gets spiteful if their like work is being contradicted and they refuse to like be flexible or see things in a new way? I remember one way when I was working in college, I was doing religious studies. And I remember there was these like debates going on, and one of my professor, what they pretty much the book they wrote was being pretty much contested, and he literally went on in a rant in class about how the person who refuted his work was incorrect and like refusing to buckle down on it. Eventually, it came out that his work was wrong. But like, do you ever see that within the field or whenever you interact with other paleontologists? Like, or is there this sort of this concept of you have to be open minded, you have to accept that we don't know things, that things are always going to be changing?
It's a little column A and a little column B. One of the things about science is that it is supposed to change. It is supposed to evolve. We're never going to know everything and hardly anything for certain, especially when we're dealing with dinosaurs. So birds are dinosaurs, so they're not completely extinct. But non-avian dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago, and they didn't show, and they showed up like 220 million years ago, call it. They've been gone for a long time, and they lasted a long time, but there's just so much that, at least from what we know now, that we will never know, given current technology, given current what we know about how things fossilize, how things are deposited. There's some things we will never know, and so that leads to a great deal of creativity, not in a bad way, but it means that there's a lot of ideas, and for better or for worse, some people, and me included, I like to think I'm not really spiteful, but I know that there are a couple of theories, that I would be really sad to see changed, because you know they could, the evidence could, show something else, but it's like, oh, but that looks so cool. I like to think that I would eventually go along with it. But yeah, and some people who, may have, spent 20 years or something on this one thing, may find it hard to, uh, let the next idea come in. And it's not just in paleontology. I mean, every science has this problem. Uh, Physics, especially, I believe it was, I think it was Lord Kelvin. Physics basically had to wait for Lord Kelvin to die before, radioactivity became an accepted idea.
Before we go on to the next question, Kevin, now hitting at the 7:30, I like to remind everyone in chat, we're working again today to support Sharkims Friends Foundation, and our goal is to always raise money for Seattle Children's Hospital. If you're listening, feel free to donate. Again, it's not required, but remember, $1, even a few cents, or even whatever you can spare, can always help children out there. Like we said in the last stream, we don't think about the struggles people are going through. And so if you can go ahead, take some time, maybe throw something out, or at least cheer on those who can, we will always be thankful. But with that, we'll continue on to Kev.
So a question, with the theories changing and being replaced, what's one thing that's changed over the years in paleontology that either disappointed or surprised you?
I was actually kind of surprised that, I think it was 2015, somewhere around there, that Brontosaurus came back. One of the things that, one of the big stories that everybody kind of goes through as they learn dinosaurs is, way back in the beginning of paleo in the 1860s, there was Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus, and then they discovered, wait a second, all of these Brontosaurus bones are like identical to these Apatosaurus bones. And given the way that naming rules work. The first name takes priority. So because Apatosaurus was named, I don't know, 2 years or something before Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, was considered the correct name. Well, 5, 6, somewhere in there years ago, again at a SVP meeting, I think it was in Dallas. I think that put it at 15, something like that. Can't remember his name. Damn. Oh well. A researcher, put forth that, hey, I've been looking at these sauropod bones for the last couple of years, and they're actually different. And so Brontosaurus is a valid name again, and so that was kind of surprising.
So there was never actually, like, the two different sets of bones weren't actually the same. They were different.
Right.
There were just small differences that weren't noticed.
Yeah. It was understandable, at the time, but we've got more data. We can see, more changes, more small changes, and then we also have a better idea of timing and stratigraphic work, where things are in the layers, and so that just helps differentiate the two.
All right, and were they? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and yeah, Northern Tide, all the sauropods are really big boys.
So were they both around at the same time? Like, were they both living at the same time period? Or is that part of why, like, they thought they were, the same bones?
I mean, they're both Jurassic. I have not.
I guess it's hard to say when the time periods stretch, millions of years in between.
I do not know. I think if they didn't live in the same time period, they were living really, really close together, and that could open up an entire different discussion. Heck, you could have a class on it, about evolutionary lineages and cladogenesis versus anagenesis, and now we run away screaming because that is an entire series of podcasts all by itself.
I have a question. This is kind of getting off the book here, but looking at paleontology, what's one study of focus that we as people don't realize that you work close with in paleontology, like physics or something like that? That we would never really think about that you guys work hand in hand and very close with.
So paleontology and kind of really geology as well, are kind of grab bag sciences. We take from literally everything. Looking at paleontology primarily is a mixture of biology, because it's the study of ancient life, and geology, because the ancient life is buried in the rock, and some of the only clues for how things were living are looking at the grain size of the sand, the type of rock, how compressed it is, whether there's been any uplift or folding of the rock. So those are the two primaries in paleontology. But we take as well from so many different things. We need physics for a lot of anatomical, figuring out anatomical details, like biomechanics, how things were moving, what strain the muscles would be under. We need physics again for like radiometric dating. A lot of dates come from volcanic ash layers, and we hope to sandwich our specimens between two ash layers where we can get a reliable radio date. Chemistry, especially now, chemistry with some of the DNA studies, and it's not even just so much, not even dinosaurs, because paleontology is a big field, and actually most paleontologists are invertebrate paleontologists, and a lot of them work in oil because there are paleo markers for some of the oil, for where oil can be found, and oil is kind of a fossil in and of itself, just because it's primarily the remains of plankton that have kind of been slow cooked for a while. But getting back to how it's kind of a grab all, chemistry, we need all that for biomolecular and things like that. Materials science actually is one that maybe people don't realize, as we try and figure out, hey, can this T-Rex tooth actually penetrate bone? I know there was a study several years ago now where they basically built a T-Rex replica, and made it bite into a Triceratops. And it's like, oh, hey, we figured out how much force is being imparted. It could break bone.
So that goes into like something I was going to ask, is if there's like sub paleontology fields, like you said, the invertebrate paleontology.
Yeah,
would you consider yourself like in one of those subfields, or are you just overall paleontologist?
Oh no, I'm definitely in a subfield. So you have paleontology as a whole, study of ancient life. And then just within like animals, you've got invertebrate and vertebrate paleontology. So invertebrates are things without backbones, vertebrates are things with backbones. Separating from that, you've got paleobotany, paleoclimatology, which isn't completely paleontology, but it touches, it weaves in and out, because many of the paleoclimate markers are in seashells. You can tell based on isotope ratios of oxygen and carbon, and calcium in shells, what the temperature was like. Then within vertebrate paleontology, even there's massive distinctions. You've got the fish people, you've got the mammals, you've got the reptiles, you've got dinosaurs, obviously, and then even within dinosaurs, I, by experience, have worked a lot on ceratopsians and hadrosaurs, digging them up. Somebody like Dr. Victoria Arbour up in British Columbia, I think is where she is. She works on ankylosaurs. My friend Kerry Woodruff, who's over in Toronto right now, he does sauropods, like Apatosaurus and Diplodocus. So even within dinosaur paleo, there are a lot of specializations. I have not fully specialized because I don't have a PhD yet. So I can still be like, I like them all, without being like, oh wait, except I must dedicate my entire being to this one group.
Going into now how things have evolved and us now hitting 20 years into this 21st century, now going to 21, what have you felt have been the most impactful moments in paleontology today, positive and negative, like discoveries or districtations, some studies that have been popped out, or even new technology that has drastically changed how you guys see dinosaurs?
So one of the things that is nice is that we are starting to look at ontogenetic change. And ontogeny is basically how an organism changes throughout its life. The physical changes throughout its life. You don't look the same now as you did as a baby, or at least I hope you don't.
So basically,
You
like
can't come out with a
mini
beard, then
form of evolution, kind of.
it's not so much evolution, because that's more broad, but it's basically just how something grows up.
Oh, okay.
And the
I mean,
changes
like
that,
how bones form, how muscles form,
and
features.
how bones fuse.
Okay.
A baby has a lot more bones than an adult, because as an adult, a lot of our skull has fused up together, and so it's not in separate bones anymore. But babies haven't fused all their bones yet. So that's one of the things is looking at ontogenetic change. And there again, calling back to one of your earlier questions, is sometimes the realization that ontogenetic change is happening means that maybe somebody's favorite dinosaur goes away, because it turns out that, hey, this was just a baby version of that.
Oh,
This
wow. I
is
actually didn't think about that.
this is most definitely the case in what is called Nanotyrannus, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news for anybody out there that really likes Nanotyrannus, but it's not a thing. It is a baby Tyrannosaurus, and the histology work, the in-depth cell work, cutting open some bones and looking at their thin sections under a microscope to examine cellular texture, um, that has been done by Dr. Thomas Carr, Dr. Holly Ballard. It's about as conclusive as we can get at the moment that Nanotyrannus isn't a thing. And like I said, calling back, some people are very upset about this and work very hard to convince people that it is. So
Oh no, I would have never thought that. It's actually really awesome.
yeah, so that's kind of a positive thing in my opinion. Looking at ontogeny. Uh, Kind of a negative thing. We are. It's not so much a. It's not so much a negative thing in and of itself, as we are beginning to take a look into our, some of the ethics, of the past, and uh, finding ourselves wanting a little bit. Um, so there have been a couple of issues. I know one of the debates right now, is Burmese amber, because there are some absolutely exquisitely preserved specimens in Burmese amber, but it is really hard to tell whether or not the amber is, for lack of a better term at the moment, blood amber, like blood diamonds. So there's some debate as to, can we use it? Should we use it? Even if it's a little, off-smelling, can we afford to let some of these specimens go? Because it's one of the problems with paleo is, there's a finite number of specimens. There are all the dinosaurs that are in the ground are in the ground. you won't add to the supply. We can find them as long as they are there, but eventually we will run out. And in some places, we're already running out. In some of the popular areas of like Montana and South Dakota, and in especially the Hell Creek Formation, you run into people who are just taking things, because they think it's cool, or because they think they can sell it, or or they can sell it because it's on their own land, and if it's on your land, it's yours. That's how fossil laws work in the United States.
Oh wait, really? So pretty much, if it's on your land and it's a fossil, regardless of the historical significance it can have within the study of the Earth, it isn't
Correct.
like, oh wow, I did not know about that. Because I know, like in some areas in archaeological digs, if you find things, you don't really get to keep it, regardless of finding it. Like you only get like a certain amount of a percentage of what the worth of the treasure is you find.
Yeah, but and I think the archaeological laws are a little different, especially when you start getting into tribal
Mhm.
artifacts. But as far as fossils go, um, if you find it on your land, it's yours. Just period, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can blow it up if you want. I
I'm
don't
gonna go
think
buy some
I don't
land
think
in
anybody.
Montana.
Or half and half.
Yeah.
You get something.
Lost my train of thought there, but some areas, some popular areas are already getting, you know, mined out, as it were, and the recharge time on, or not really recharge, because it won't be replenished by itself, but more things could erode out, but that takes time and weather, and it could be 50, 100, could be a millennium before uh, you know anything more is uncovered, depending on where you are.
And so, talking about a sort of what are these dinosaurs on the land and everything, has there ever been or something recent in which a common like someone who wasn't in the field found it on their land and they end up destroying such a beautiful or specimen or even bones and layers? Has something like that usually occurs, a common thing, or is a very rare thing that happens?
No comment.
No comment. Okay.
Back to the whole ontogeny thing. How can you guys tell with like a younger bone and like comparing it to like older? How is it modeled where you can tell how this became this? I know it's easier to tell with everything that's alive now because we can physically watch it happen. But like with dinosaurs, you everything is stuck how it is. How can you?
So bones have texture, and the texture both on the outer bone and the inner bone can change a lot depending on what is happening to it. Um, Juvenile bone, better get this right, or somebody's going to come on and yell at me. Juvenile bone, I believe, yeah, juvenile bone tends to be more spongy, and you can tell that under a microscope, even though it's rock at this point. But you can just tell that it's juvenile bone. It has a certain look to it. And fully mature bone. Yes, thank you, Sean. I know you're putting this on YouTube forever and ever. Um, fully mature bone has a different look to it, and when you take a bone and make a thin section with it, you cut a piece out and grind it real thin and put it on a microscope, you can see that. Additionally, if a bone has fused, like I said earlier, uh, adult humans have a smaller number of bones than juvenile humans because the bones have fused together. You can see, the suture marks where the bones fuse together. and that's just one of the ways that you can tell. It's like, hey, this bone is sutured. It's clearly, a mature specimen. Or, oh, hey, this bone doesn't have any suture marks. It's still like 3 bones.
Interesting.
All right. So we have some questions from the audience.
All right.
So this comes from Fat Hedonist. Have you heard of dinos sitting on eggs?
I have, and that's just in the past couple of days that study has come out, and it is sitting in my to be read box right now. But it's really cool. For a long time, we didn't know that dinosaurs sat on their eggs, or we didn't read the signs correctly. Way back in the 1920s, I was about to say the 20s, and then I realized that we're in the 20s again. Oh dear. In Mongolia, on the Gobi Desert, they found a nest that had what is called an oviraptor, close to it, and it was thought at the time that oviraptor, that dinosaur was stealing the eggs, hence the name oviraptor, egg thief, and that it was stealing the eggs of some other dinosaur like a protoceratops or something. And then technology marched on, and eventually we're able to CT scan these eggs, and we discovered, oh hey, these aren't protoceratops eggs, these are oviraptor eggs. This wasn't the robbing of a nest. This was a parent coming back to to protect the nest. And so that's cool. This study that just came out is cool because behavior doesn't fossilize well. Behavior is kind of like it's actions through time, you could say. And how do you show in the fossils that something is taking care of its young? It's hard. How do we know that? How do we know the dinosaurs can dance? But so this showing, because it's actually brooding on its nest, is showing behavior. It's showing that oviraptors didn't just get up and run away. They sat on their nests, kind of like a chicken or something, and you can probably infer that they had parental care.
And I think that's one thing we had a discussion with. And if you guys were in the 24-hour stream over ARC, we actually had a sort of good 15-minute discussion about Spinosauruses, about just the whole entire discussion of how they actually move, how they interact, and how it was such like a heated debate of did they sort of slither like crocodiles, did they not, and stuff. And so I think that's one thing that you've always brought up, is just like understanding how a dinosaur interact is a very hard thing to do, and you only have so much information from what you can deem from the bones and even its location of where it's being dug up and everything. And then we have one more question from Z300Z. Have you heard of eminent domain being used for evacuation purposes? Don't know if that makes sense to you.
Not sure.
I presume they meant excavation purposes.
Oh yes, excavation. My bad. That's probably excavation purposes.
Yes.
Yes.
I have not heard of land being seized to dig up a dinosaur. No. There is.
America loves their land.
Yeah, that's true. There is a large weirdness around Sue the Tyrannosaur. and it is long solved, and sort of, but there was questions at the time as to where it was found and whose land it was, and I believe I believe she was eventually seized by the feds to until all the ownership was sorted out. And I honestly do not remember how that all the legal ins and outs and who eventually was shown to be the rightful owner. I just remember that it was sold in the 90s for like $8 million and is currently owned by the Field Museum of Chicago, where it is nice and safe and protected, and you can go and see it.
So you've been doing paleontology for a number of years now. If someone wanted to get started in the fields, what would you suggest to them?
Find a museum, get involved in whatever your local museum is with volunteering. A lot of museums will have, if they have a paleo program. I mean, obviously, don't go to an art museum for this. But find your local natural history museum, find the curator, and ask if you can help them in the lab, and sign up for. A lot of museums will have a summer dig program. Many of them will not charge because they're getting free labor out of you. They'll just feed you and show you a place to pitch your tent, and they'll work you half to death, but you'll get out and help find new stuff. And then you need to read. You need, like I said earlier, to do to get some of the permits and everything. You're going to need a PhD, so get good with get good with your science and math, and work your way through a bachelor's and a master's and get a PhD.
And so, one last question before we go from Z300Z: is provenance a big thing in paleontologists, as in the art world?
Yes, you need to know where something came from, and the way that deposition works is, 5 centimeters, something 5 centimeters above something else. Like if I find a bone here, one spot, and 5 centimeters above it is a different bone, depending on the conditions and where you find it, there could be 10 million years between those two bones. And so you have to know where something came from, and you have to know it really well, and that's one reason that that permitting requirements can be so strict, is because they want to make sure that you are taking all the data of where you found it properly.
So, and the permitting, is that something that has to be like per person, or is it just like the whole group?
It tends to be an overall thing. So when I'm out on permits, I'm under the overriding or overarching authority of, say, Dr. Denver Fowler, who is the person on the permit, and I'm collecting under his permit, and everything will go. And if I mess up, it's on him, but I don't mess up.
All right. With that, like to thank you for coming out and taking some time to answer our questions. Bobby, always appreciate it. And again, thank you for everyone who has been around listening. If you have any further questions, you can shoot us up at Discord, and I'm pretty sure Zekor will be happy to answer those questions.
Oh yeah.
You guys have been great. Reminder again, Donations do not end. We are going the whole year. So anytime you feel like you want to donate, you might wake up and be like, man, I want to do something good today. You can just drop in $1. Always helpful. I like to think sometimes, do I want to buy myself a soda or a cup of coffee, or do I want to give it out somewhere? And sometimes giving that donation is always helpful. Again, you're helping out a kid out there who needs it, and even those families. But with that, thank you again, Bobby. Thank you for everyone being out there. Bobby, before you go, do you want to give out any information, your Instagram, Twitter, your Discord username for them to get in contact with you, or for them to see any content you're doing?
What is my Discord username? Most of my social media is locked down pretty tight. No, that's what it is in here.
I think we ought to get a hashtag dinosaur chat.
Yeah,
Going
Zekor number 1873, I guess. But yeah, in the Sharkims and Friend Discord, I am Dino Lord Zekor. So feel free to tag me or send me a message, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Thanks everyone for showing up.
Also, congrats to W Trust for winning Valheim.
Please send us your Steam username so we can send Valheim to you. Again, like I said, we're going to try getting it in your hands officially today. So the quicker you give us that information, the quicker we can give it out to you.
I'm feeding now. Just a note, you can't. So it'll have to be, I think it's 24 to 48 hour waiting period before you can Steam gift somebody something.
Ah, okay.
So that will happen.
So that will happen. Okay. Well, see, Steam has taught me so many things of frustration and anger.
Also, thank you. Next week, again, at 7 p.m. Do you guys know who you're going to have?
I don't.
We do not know. We'll find someone. We always find someone. But again, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone taking those times. Thank you for those who spent time asking questions. I know Bobby enjoyed it just as much as we did. With further ado, thank you for coming out. Last thing you want to say before you go, Bobby?
Go to all your museums, because museums really need help right now. Attendance is obviously still hurting from COVID, and people are losing their jobs. So go to your museum.
Kev, anything you want to say before we go?
Much. I'm pretty good right now. Thank you though, everyone that's watching, and
not today, dude. Not today.
First notch, and I'm just dying. Anyway, come by next week, and hopefully we have another guest that's just as entertaining as Bobby has been.
And like I said, if you guys enjoy it when you see it on YouTube, throw some questions out there, or even say we want to see him again, because I know we have so many more questions for Bobby to ask. But then again, this was just a simple introduction, and we'll continue on these discussions as we go through the year. All right, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.